What is up, you guys? It is me, Monty, and today I am back again, once again, with the start of another video. So hopefully the second time it's going to record properly and I won't have to worry about it stuttering. But I finished The Breakup Tour by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. I believe I pronounced names correctly. That's how I've heard it pronounced. But if I have butchered it, then I do apologize to these individuals. And I want to start this video off by saying that while I did not enjoy this book as much as I would have hoped going into it, I do think that upon reflection, upon thinking about it a little bit, I think that I'm really, truly, sincerely speaking, not a second chance girly. I think that to me, I enjoy people who want to burn bridges and salt the earth. And even though there wasn't anything majorly low and down between Max and Riley in their past that should have precluded them from getting back together, there was also nothing in their present that made me think that they should definitely reconcile, other than the fact that Riley was single and Max was single, and they were it was giving big settler energy. And that's not to kind of discount the people who do settle. I do think that there's a lot to be said in books and in fiction about people who get these whirlwind romances where people are swept off their feet and things are just like, the best of the best or whatever. And there's an element to that in the fact that, Riley is a mega famous pop star going back to this person that she knew before all of that. And there is a moment where Max is realizing that he knew Riley before this, and he was like, I knew the real Riley. And then he has to check himself and go, well, the real Riley is also this Riley, and it's not just this person I knew in the past. So there is, I think, some self-awareness on both of their parts. There's just nothing in the communication between the two that makes me feel like y'all should rekindle whatever it is that you had in the past, other than that it ended in a very open way. I don't think there wasn't any closure there. And so because there was no closure and it didn't end badly, it's just kind of like we could just fit back together and kind of pick up where we left off and maybe go on our way. It didn't work for me. And it, like I said, it didn't give settler energy. And I do think there are people whose marriages started off with something like a settling, or, when you're reading an arranged marriage and it's like these two people are not necessarily the person that they would have chosen for themselves, but it was out of their control. And then you have these people who are building and forging a connection between the two of them that is, meaningful and impactful, even though it might not be your prototypical, like, I was swept off my feet. There is still a genuine connection and love there. But in all of those situations where it's, a person who's arranged or like a settling, eventually along the way, we can understand like why these people are still choosing each other however many years down the line. And in this book, I don't really get a sense of why Max and Riley are choosing to be with each other, particularly Max, who could be with anybody in theory, or Riley, who could, again, definitely in practice and in theory, be with anybody. And so seeing them come back together is just a little bit, it doesn't feel fulfilling in a way that I'd like my romances to feel, even in situations where I don't really believe that these couples are going to be together in the long run. This book also does the thing I hate in the epilogue, where we flash forward however many months or years or days to a point in the future to really seal in the deal that these characters are meant to be together because they're taking some big step in their future. And I don't feel like that's a spoiler because so many romances books do this. And even in romance books that I enjoy actively, like Wildfire, which I was going to give 4 or 5 stars to, that also does a jump forward in the epilogue. And to me, that almost comes off as a cheap party trick in order to make the reader go, even though I might not have laid the groundwork in the meat of the novel for you to view them as a couple that is going to succeed. And in order to succeed, they're going to hit these milestones that you expect couples to reach. I'm just going to put it in the epilogue. And it's just okay, clearly you can do whatever you would like. But I feel like if you don't put in the work in the main course of the novel, then when you do it in the epilogue, it's just kind of feeling like you have a cheat code that you are going to make a run around the system. And so that didn't work for me. I also felt like the kind of big gesture moment in this book was a little deeply, it was not even a little, it was deeply unserious to a point where I was just like, sure, whatever, do what you want. In theory, it could work in a visual medium. It does give that same energy of running through the airport that I read in Guy's Girl recently, which again, no one is actually running through the airport, but that's kind of the big moment, oh, I fucked up. I'm realizing I fucked up. I really do want to be with you. So I'm going to fight the outside world to be with you and to tell you this and to declare how I feel. And there's a scene similar to that in this book. And for me, it just didn't work. It kind of fell flat, not because it was poorly executed, but it's just because there was nothing in me that made me feel like these two people should actually be together, that these two people that this person would actually make this gesture to be with this person, and this other person, this other character would receive it quite the way that it's meant to be received. And so this didn't work for me. It's not nearly as good as I would have hoped. Going into this, I was expecting it to be, I mean, I will say the parts of it that I went to expect to like, I did like. I did like the pop star elements. I liked the tour elements. I just didn't like the two people, Max and Riley, coming back together. I'd also argue it's one of like the dual perspective romances that I didn't really care for a hero's point of view. I don't think that Max really added anything to the story because he was so unsure of what he wanted in a way that it wasn't fun to read about. It was kind of like he was going with the flow to a degree, but he was also unsure of himself, and not in a way that was relatable. I never got a sense of like what he actually wanted, because he didn't know what he wanted. And so he wasn't very proactive in anything, but he also wasn't necessarily inactive. It was just very weird. You have to read it to understand it. But Max as a character and his perspective didn't really work for me most of the time. I would say there are two scenes in this book that we needed more of, and they're both related to Max helping Riley troubleshoot some difficulties having writing some songs. And those were the two elements of the story that I felt like I could really see a present day connection and understanding kind of how that tied back to how they had been in relationship with one another previously. And so in those moments, I did appreciate them as characters, and I could understand how this was supposed to be romantic, and these characters actively belonging with one another. And so in those moments, I appreciated it, but they were fleeting and they were far between. And I would have easily replaced the two sex scenes we got in this book with more moments of those characters really digging into their connection in the present, or communicating at all about what happened in the past. It just felt very unfinished, and it's an arc, so in some ways it is unfinished. It is unresolved. But I do think that I've read plenty of arcs and this book is coming out soon. I want to say it's a January release. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the editing notes. But there's something about it that just isn't all the way there. There's something about it that's just a little bit off in too many places, that for me, it's a 2-star book. It's not bad. It's very middle of the road. It's very it's okay. I feel like there's a little bit more promise here. Maybe. I don't know. I just want something else from them. But I think that right now, Austin and Emily are going to go in the same camp as Ashley Winstead, where I'm kind of done for the moment. But if they ever come out with something that interests me, I'll come back to it. And I think much like Emily and Austin, Ashley has a book coming out in 2024 that does sound like a Monty book. It sounds like it has elements of a story that I would appreciate, that I would be into, that I would want to read. And so I think that we're going to be kind of sort of back in the same situation where in 2024, I'm going to be reading an Ashley Winstead book with my fingers crossed that it works out for me. But if it's anything like this one, it definitely is not going to work. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's a better situation for me. But for right now, that's all I have. I have started listening to The Mystery Guest by Anita Prose. This is the second book in the Maid series. Last Vlogmas, I read The Maid, and so it only felt fulfilling or fitting for me to read the second book this Vlogmas. And I said we're going to talk about it tomorrow, even though I started it today, because I don't have much to say about the opening. But tomorrow is going to be my big cleaning day, I'm pretty sure. And so 3 hours of an audiobook that is going to be hopefully compulsively readable, because it does have a mystery component. I feel like it's going to be the perfect fuel. And so I think that if I save that for tomorrow, both the audiobook and being able to talk about it, it'll actually motivate me to read on a day where I don't have to go to work. Because I'm still trying to work on that on days where I don't have to go to work, still finding time to read and, fitting that into my day. Which is obviously supposed to be easier because I don't have to go to work, but surprisingly more difficult than it should be, partially because I just want to lay in bed on those days. But we're not going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to clean. We're going to talk about that book. I'm going to listen to it. It's going to be great. I mean, the productivity is going to be great, and hopefully the book will be at least decent. I didn't love the first book, so I'm not expecting great things out of this one. All I want is for it to be able for me to pass the time, and I feel like it'll at least accomplish that. So that's how I'm going into that. No expectations. Can't upset me too badly if I have no expectations. So we'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, until next time.